And also, I want to promote your YouTube channel, Papa Pete, the old guy gamer. Okay? I'm Nick fucking Gage, and you're watching Papa Pete, MDK all fucking day.
Papa Pete, the old ass gamer. Papa Pete, the old ass gamer. If you haven't grown up by the age of 50, you don't have to.
I don't have to grow up. I got Dick fucking Gage on my side.
Fucking Gage. That was awesome.
Right on. Oh my god, let's turn my phone off here. There we go. Well, hey, welcome to Wrestling Video Games and Retro Adventures. Me and Jeff, and special guest today, CMRetro Gaming.
Hello. Thanks for having me, guys.
Right on. Well, we spent a little bit of time on your channel the other night. We had a great time, so we thought, let's go talk some wrestling.
Some wrestling.
Yep. Sorry, just set my alarm. I got to get up I just got off work, and I got to get up at 6:30 tomorrow because I'm teaching range. So it's like 45 minutes down to the range. So it's like,
Oh, really? Yeah. You got to be there pretty much crack of dawn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like I get up at about 5:45 in the morning. So these can be kind of late nights here because we're an hour later than you. Papa Pete time, we call it. I think I'm the only one in this time zone around. We got one guy pops in all the time, Caper Dave. I don't know if he's here yet or not, but he's also in my time zone. So I guess I'll share the time zone with him. So how goes the battle today, Jeff?
It's good. I'm feeling better today, a little bit better. I might sound worse than I feel, but doing good.
You were pretty hoarse the other night.
Yeah, on Chris's show, that was rough. Trying to say anything.
It was 1:00 in the morning too, so I suppose we'll give you that, true. Right? Yeah, really. So today, let's talk a little Hell in the Cell. Now, I added something to this. I mentioned it to you, Chris, the other day when we talked about what we were going to talk about. And I sort of flubbed a little bit, and I said, "Yeah, we're going to talk about King of the Ring." And you went, like, you like King of the Ring? I got the impression that you did.
I do. We have lived through such an interesting time in the wrestling universe. We all grew up as kids, and it was like our action figures coming to life, right? And it was just great. Exactly. And we loved every moment of it. And now that we're older with the internet, we get to kind of go back and see all the seedy side, the dark side of the ring, who's doing coke and who's sleeping with who and who got fired over politics and who told McMahon to stuff it. Yep. But that doesn't really change my opinion too much because I'm a huge fan of the King of the Ring, just like I'm a huge fan of the Royal Rumble. However, the theory of it is sound and I love it, but looking back now, it's obviously flawed, right? Crash Holly or Jimmy Wang Yang are never winning the Royal Rumble, just like Mr. Hughes or Doink are never going to win, King of the Ring. But when you're a kid and you're watching, you don't understand that, right? We watched today and we're like, some of these mid-card guys and these international guys, they're not winning the Royal Rumble. No, but the idea, the spirit of it is there, even though sort of the company, the letter of it, the booking hasn't always been there. The idea that anybody can show up on any given night and win and have an opportunity to, go to WrestleMania or challenge somebody at SummerSlam or something like that is so just incredibly powerful. But again, it's limited in how it is booked and who's able to participate. Hell in the Cell, on the other hand, you sort of know exactly what you're getting, right? These are these big battles, these blood feuds with these two men in there. And when I get, we talk Hell in the Cell, it's Foley and Undertaker, right? That's the one we always want to talk about. And that one moment that will live forever. But it allows the characters, the men inside the characters, to really explore the depths and the abilities of what those characters are able to do and tell a story in a very brutal way, you know.
Yep.
So although I respect the Hell in the Cell, I love the idea of a Royal Rumble or a King of the Ring, some type of tournament, you know, where anybody can show up and win. Just in theory, I think the theory for me is just amazing.
Which goes right back to the very first show we did. What we decided to do when we did our first episode of this way back when was we talked about WrestleMania 4, which was the ultimate tournament, right? Which at the time, tournaments had probably been done all over, but we weren't accustomed to it. It was the first big mainstream tournament that had ever been done on in a major pay-per-view after the big nationalization of WWF, right? So so anyway, like I was saying, I got that vibe from you with King of the Ring, because originally we were just going to talk about Hell in the Cell and the pay-per-view that just went on this last Sunday. And I got thinking while I was watching, I said, well, because I like King of the Ring, I really do. I always loved that tournament. And just like you, I mean, yes, no, you're not going to have one of these other guys that are going to step up and win, although it kind of did happen in '95 with the King of the Ring. If you remember when Mabel stepped up and won, that's like, where the hell did that come from? But anyway, I got thinking about that King of the Ring was always the June pay-per-view, and now for the last 12 years, it's been Hell in the Cell. So really, those two have a lot of history that sort of go together. Hell in the Cell has replaced King of the Ring, and frankly, Hell in the Cell got its roots. The very first one wasn't at King of the Ring, but the most notable one was that you've already mentioned, right? That one moment, Mankind and The Undertaker in the Hell in the Cell. That was King of the Ring '98, right?
Yeah. And fundamentally, there are still flaws to King of the Ring, and especially like when you have that event, you have to have like the whole event at the pay-per-view. You know, in my opinion, maybe you could have first round and qualifying on the Monday Night Raws, but you can't just give me like the semis and the final. But it's flawed because, you know, you have these Kings of the Ring where it's like, you know, Bret Hart will go against Razor Ramon, and then in the next round, Mr. Perfect, and then in the finals, Bam Bam Bigelow, and it really is showcasing Bret's ability to manage 3 different match types.
Yes.
But further down the card, if 2 guys get into a double count out, then Bam Bam Bigelow gets a bye, and it's like, that's just cheap booking, in my opinion.
I agree.
Let somebody win and then let Bam Bam squash them in the second round. You know, it just So there's the King of the Ring isn't perfect. If I had my way, I know how I would book it. But like you were saying with Mabel, you know, they had a plan.
Yeah. For
Mabel after that, they were going to give him a big push, right? And he was going to, you know, kind of be that monster heel that Vince always likes. But that's the other fundamental flaw, is that typically the King of the Ring winner really doesn't have anywhere to go other than to put on a crown and a scepter and I'm the king, you know, for a year, which is kind of lame. And it doesn't really work unless you have, you know, unless you're like, you know, you got some type of comedic element, you know, to your gimmick. Like my favorites are like the Booker T's, who else here? Macho Man.
Oh yeah.
The only one I can think of that really used King of the Ring to really launch a career was Steve Austin.
Stone Cold '96, right? I say Mabel didn't even make the cover. He's the King of the Ring winner. He's not even on the cover, right?
And at that pay-per-view, Sean like blew the whole thing because he went over to the crown and tried to put it on, and it was like twice as big as his head. So he turns it and does it this way. It's like, well, obviously he's not the King of the Ring because the crown doesn't fit him. You know?
That's a good point. I don't remember that at all.
If they had a plan for the King of the Ring winner every year, you know, I think that would be a little bit more special. And then they just sort of keep relegating it, you know, to a minor pay-per-view. And then, you know, with the WWE Network now, you know,
I think it started off pretty good, though. Okay, 93. Who won the? I don't have 93 King of the Ring. I don't remember who won it.
Bret Hart.
But Bret won the first 2 then. That's right. Bret won 90.
Because before it was like a house show event, the King of the Ring.
But I can remember them doing. Let's say they had 8 wrestlers. Okay, I can remember them starting off with 16, maybe a month ahead. Not long after WrestleMania, frankly, because it may have even been of the era well, it was the era pre In Your House. So they had added maybe 2 more. So they were doing pay-per-views about every 2 months. And I believe that King of the Ring always followed up in June, right after WrestleMania. So starting WrestleMania, they sort of start building up who's going to be in the tournament. Then they play the first 8 matches over a few weeks, maybe 2 weeks. They take 2 or 3 weeks to build it up. Then they take like 4 weeks to narrow it down to a final 8. And your actual pay-per-view would include those 8 people. And that's where you're talking about where you're really showing something where Bret Hart's or Owen Hart or whoever's wrestling 3 people in a day in a night, and it really shows the stamina, and it really sort of seems to be something. And I can remember towards the end of it, they would whittle it down to the final 4, which meant 2 matches, and that just it sort of lost its luster with that. It became secondary to the other things going on in the tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the big tournament bracket. You know, all 16 guys.
Yeah.
You know, because they used to do King of the Ring qualifying matches on Monday Night Raw, and the first couple weeks before the King of Ring, and it's like you wanted to watch Raw because it's like, is Doink the Clown going to beat Skinner, and is he going to be in? Oh my gosh! And if he is in, then he's going to wrestle Razor Ramon in the first round or something. You know what I mean? So you start putting it together in your head. You're like, oh my god, this is so amazing! You know?
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know. But Hell in the Cell, I mean, it was a great gimmick, but it's been out now. They've had an actual pay-per-view since 2009, and I'm going to be quite honest. They're not nearly as memorable to me as the Hell in the Cells that occurred during the 90s and maybe even 2000s with some of the ones like Undertaker and Shawn Michaels and later on. I mean, of course, then the most infamous one, which would be Al Snow and Big Boss Man, right? Do you remember that one?
When he hung him?
Yeah, the dog. Was that the dog? What the hell they call it? Dog kennel match or something like that. And the dogs kept a bunch of Rottweilers in there, and they kept crapping all over the mats on the outside of the ring. It was really quite a fiasco. But anyway, those remember that. Well, let's talk about this pay-per-view. Did you catch any of the pay-per-view or see any of the results from this Sunday night, Chris?
I did not, but I did want to throw out one more thing about Hell in the Cell. I love the old steel cage match, the blue cage, right? Like that's just from my childhood, right? But I do think that Hell in the Cell is much better than a regular steel cage match, because when you put all that steel up there, right? The steel cage, you know, we're talking about these blood feud matches, and with the steel cage, it's like 2 ways to win is to run away. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't make sense, and that's what I love about Hell in the Cell is that there's nowhere to go, right? You're in it until you win it. So there's a finality to it that is really nice to have when you're talking about storytelling at that level.
Yeah. And then how it always sort of works out. They get around, they get outside, and I mean, some of the stunts they pulled over the years, like who's gone off the top of it now? Mankind and Shane McMahon. Who else? Do you think of anybody else who's actually gone off the top of it? What's that?
Was he off the very top? Like standing up
Shane
there?
McMahon was, yeah.
Was? Wow.
And of course, the 98, that's been shown 1,000 times. I wish I could show video on these streams. Of course, you can't.
There's one where Undertaker choke slammed Rikishi off the top, and he went into like that truck bed full of like wood chips or something, whatever that was.
That's right. And wasn't that a 6-man Hell in the Cell match?
It was something, and it looked like shit. But hey, kudos to Rikishi for taking that bump. I don't know if I'd have done it.
That's right. Yeah. Right into who knows? There had to be some good padding in there, but it just was hay. All you saw was hay go flying, right?
Who knows?
I do remember that. Yeah. So this weekend, though, you know, one thing I noticed about this is Jeff watched the whole thing too, and we watched. And Jeff watched it on Friday night. I watched it on Sunday, a replay. But they took one of the matches off of the pay-per-view and ended up showing it on Friday night on SmackDown. It was Roman Reigns versus Rey Mysterio in the Cell. So what you think about that, Jeff? What did you hear about when they did it, the reaction they got and such for doing that? Because I guess it was more of a corporate fallout from that than anything, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the case. But I mean, they made the storyline that Rey Mysterio was all upset, and he had to get vengeance on him as soon as possible. So they moved it 2 days. But why they actually moved it, I'm not really sure. I don't know. Personally, I didn't really like the match that much because, I mean, Rey Mysterio against Roman Reigns. Just looking at it, it's like, Rey Mysterio is going to get clobbered. It's only a matter of time. And they set it up where he he ambushed Roman Reigns, and he was beating him up for like 10 minutes straight. And then after that, it was just a disaster for him. Yeah. To the point where Roman Reigns just picked him up like his son and just threw him right out of the ring and into the cage.
Yeah.
Rey
Mysterio's made a career of being in situations like that and somehow pulling it off.
Yeah,
I think we were both going with.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of. I don't know. When I was little, the little guy is going to beat the big guy stuff, and it's like I don't care about that anymore. I'm like, it's ridiculous. Obviously, this guy is going to beat this guy up. If it's anywhere close to
that is
anything real.
That is true. But they ended up showing it away. They took it away from Peacock and showed it on it would be on USA. What's USA? Just a different network. So I think Peacock or NBC was sort of ticked off over that, weren't they?
Yeah, that's what I heard. Do you think they did that as like a promo for the pay-per-view?
I don't know, maybe. But I mean, it's not like they're trying for pay-per-view buy rates anymore. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, just an odd thing.
Were they? I wonder if they were worried if it was gonna that one match was gonna put them over a certain amount of time, and they would have to pay for another block on the pay service. I've kind of heard of that stuff kind of happening before. But you figure if you're gonna have Roman Reigns and Rey Mysterio, Hell in the Cell on SmackDown, you would before the pay-per-view, you'd probably try and promote the hell out of that. And if it was a last-minute thing, you had to believe that something else was wrong.
Yeah, this is true. But did you find? And I think I saw an edited version. But did you find they even needed to sell for that match, Jeff?
No, it was. I mean, I don't know. I just think that it's such a. I don't know. I just think it's such a lopsided match. Anyway, how old is Rey Mysterio now? He's got to be in his mid-40s, right? At least.
Oh, look it up.
Yeah.
I'll Google it.
Yeah,
he's been around a long time. I mean, he's basically undersized, older. I mean, he's quick, but
hey, Retro Hack, see you, man.
He was born December 11th, 1974. He's 46.
He's younger than me. 46. Well, he was going really young though too. He started 88 or 89.
Yeah, he
could have been 88. It's got to be 92, 94. He would have been around 20, 18 to 20.
Well, I mean, I guess the whole reason for the cage for them was for what Reigns did to Rey Mysterio's son.
Okay.
Because they had a big He threw him out of the ring. A week earlier when he had him up he just threw him.
I'll be the most honest thing. If I had a choice between sitting down and watching Raw or SmackDown or sitting down and watching WrestleMania 7, I'd turn on WrestleMania 7 in a second. I'd much rather watch the old stuff. I really would. Or anything from the 90s or 2000s, frankly. But still. And it's sort of along the line what I'm kind of getting at is then the next Hell in a Cell match was Bayley versus what's her name? I got it right here.
Bianca Belair.
The girl with the what is it? What's her name? Belair.
Yep.
Bianca Belair. And again, same thing. The hair was more important than the cage. Right?
Well, Bayley tied her hair to the ropes at one point, and then I think she tied it to a chair, right?
Yeah. And tie it around the end and tie this little knot. So she just reaches down and unties it in a few seconds, right? If you want to tie that on there, we're going to try to convince somebody. We're going to wrap it around there and tie it. Put it in a knot. Kept waiting for something like that to happen. Get a little girl here.
In super kayfabe fashion, it's like, well, if you can't pull somebody by the hair, but this person's using their hair as a weapon. Shouldn't they have to isn't there some kind of regulation in the WWE rule book that says that they have to have a hair, a certain length?
Yeah,
you know
really.
what I mean? This is
Oh,
ridiculous.
And I kind of felt that match could have been pretty good, and I look at some ratings, and some people did rate it pretty good, but I didn't like it. I mean, then it was a cheesy finish, and again, the same type of deal. What the hell did the cell have to do with it? Nothing at all. And the other matches were decent. I'm going to bring up the. Let's see.
Did you see the pre-show match? I don't know how I missed it.
I did. Natalia and Miss Mandy Rose.
That must have been a really short match because I fast forwarded through the first 10 minutes or something, and I saw Belair and Bailey, so I stopped there. But I guess I went right through their match. Must have been really short.
It was longer than I expected, to be quite honest. It was like usually those matches are 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, and I think this one was 7 or 8 minutes, which it seemed like quite long. They battled quite a while, and I thought the two of them did a pretty good job. All things, and
Why is it a pre-show match?
Yeah, Natalia is great. I love Natty. She's
well,
great. It's quite the bait too.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. They always used to show one to try to get the pay-per-view buy. They'd always show one free in order to boost those pay-per-view buys. Nowadays, with it on Peacock, everybody's just subbing for $5 a month. Yeah. Is that what it is? $5 a month to get that on top of your Peacock account, correct?
No, it comes with the
I don't have
account.
a Peacock.
There's nothing extra; it just comes with the account.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. So, I mean, I don't understand the lore of that, then, of bringing that in.
Do they even do pay?
Anyway, they still do it almost every pay-per-view at the pre-match.
Do they actually have a pay-per-view where you can go and get it?
But it does still exist. You can do that. And it's still friggin' $50-$60.
Yeah,
I don't know why. I don't know why anybody.
But
I mean, I don't, because you get the pay-per-views when you subscribe to the network, right?
Right.
So why would you pay $60
Right.
for one pay-per-view when it's $10 a month or something? So for $120 for, and usually at WrestleMania time, they're like, hey, buy the WrestleMania pay-per-view for $60 and we'll give you a year's worth of the network for free. You know what I mean? So for $60 you get WrestleMania and a year's worth. So
see, I'm not sure if you're aware, but the WWE network is gone in the States, right? It doesn't exist anymore. It's all just part of Peacock. But the rest of the world, I actually still have the WWE network, and I pay is it $12.99 or $11.99 a month for it, Canadian?
Yeah.
Okay. So a pay-per-view when we got them, and I didn't pay for every pay-per-view or anything like that, but I would get WrestleManias and I'd get Royal Rumbles, and I'd really enjoy them. Oh, we have this thing on here. Let's get that off there. And so now I just get the network, and not only can I watch, the pay-per-views that are due each month, I can watch every pay-per-view that's ever made, right?
And every episode of every series that's in their library, the Raws, the SmackDowns, the ECWs, the Monday Nitros.
All the King of the Rings are there.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I just checked. Yeah, it's only $5 a month. So for $60 a year, you can get all the pay-per-views as opposed to just $60 for one. It doesn't make any sense.
And I'm sure $60 is probably canned. I bet you it's 40 over there. To be quite honest, I bet you it's 40 in the US for a pay-per-view. But anyway, regardless, it's not exactly proportional, is it?
No.
So
but
go ahead.
When I was a kid, I saved up some money and I was like, man, I want to buy. I wanted to see this Iron Man match. Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, WrestleMania 12, and I was like, he had Undertaker and Diesel, in that pay-per-view, and I think there was a couple other good matches. I think that was at the Ultimate Warrior Royal Rumble, Ultimate Warrior and Triple H, where he came out and squashed Triple H like it was like his return, whatever it was. But I remember like giving my parents cash, like, hey, I'm gonna order the pay-per-view, you know what I mean? And sitting down there, I taped it so I could watch it over and over again. But that might have been the last actual WWE pay-per-view I've ever paid for. Usually it's like you go over a friend's house or something and just take a 6-pack or, you know.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. Of course, we had different dishes and stuff up here where we could get them for free and such. And of course, we always did that back in the day. It was around late 90s, 2000s. There's the one you're talking about right here. I think you're talking about WrestleMania 12, right?
Yeah, the Iron Man match. The promos for that were really good.
Oh, yeah, an hour one. I remember I watched that. We should have. If they hadn't rung the bell and just keep it going overtime, why did they stop it? And then take him out of the sharpshooter and then start overtime. Oh.
And it's like, Gorilla Monsoon comes out there and he starts posturing, oh, there must be a winner. We're going to sudden death overtime. But you understand what Brett's saying. No, he had an hour to beat me and he didn't do it.
That's right.
You know?
That's right.
So it's like, and that's good story. That's good storytelling. And that they're missing that today. You know?
They are. Yes, I agree. Yeah. I agree totally. There's your match right there. Ultimate Warrior pinned Hunter Hearst Helmsley in 1 minute and 36 seconds.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was a squash.
Yeah.
Who else was on that card? I can't read that.
Okay, I'm going to try to... I don't think I can really make that any bigger this way. Body Donnas beat Henry and Phineas Godwin to win the vacant tag team championship with Skip pin Phineas. They're classics, the Godwins, and so are we. I like the Body Donnas too, actually.
Oh yeah,
the Nacho Man, no contest. The Huckster, Billionaire Ted. Oh, what the hell?
No, that was that promo. That promo that they would always do with somebody that was dressed up like Hulk Hogan that was skinny as a twig, and they were like he's like, oh, my back, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh God. Okay, then this is a little bit better. You got Vader, Owen Hart, and Davey Smith beat Jake Roberts, Yokozuna, and Ahmed Johnson. The 12:51, just triple threat match. When Vader, or not triple threat, but a 3-man tag team. When Vader pinned Roberts. Then you got Roddy Piper and Goldust battled in the first half of the Hollywood Backyard
Brawl. Yes. Yep.
This was a pre-tape segment. A live segment would come afterwards.
Yeah, Goldberg had like that gold Cadillac, and I think Piper was in like a white Ford Bronco, and they did the overheads, and it looked like the OJ chase. Remember that?
Yes.
And Piper ended up stripping him down in the ring.
They both still talk about that match this day, the damage they did, because they went all out. Of course, I mean, I think that it was taped like something like a week before the rest of it. But I just remember seeing Piper talk about how they actually, like, when they went into windshields and stuff, they got hurt doing those things. Then, of course, after the 7th match of the card, they reappeared coming into the back door of the arena and made their way out to the ring.
That's right. And Piper stripped him down. He had like a black lingerie or something on under his Goldust suit.
Right. Oh yeah. The stuff that Dustin Rhodes did though in that costume were some pretty outrageous things. He seemed to be a pretty good sport about it all, didn't he?
I love that character when Goldust came out. It's just so weird and bizarre, and
I did get to see him live once. Back in '96, we saw he and Vader fought Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker in a tag team match in St. John, New Brunswick. I'm so glad I went that time, because also that night, I got to remember who they fought, but I saw Owen and Davey fought that night. So I got to see, that's the only time I saw either of those two, because I didn't really get to go again until after Davey had passed. So, and Owen had been gone for a couple years. So, Steve Austin pinned Savio Vega, which is pretty cool. Steve Austin, of course, this would be just when he's sort of starting
Yeah,
it was a year later. Broke out.
Steve Austin and Savio Vega worked a lot together when they were both younger. They had some kind of there was like they worked a strap match a couple times, and then these single kind of one-off matches at different venues.
Look at that. There's Lance. The original plan was to put Roddy Piper versus OJ Simpson at that WrestleMania.
Huh.
Was that? Oh, I suppose OJ. Of course, OJ was out. I wonder why that got canned. If you know, Lance, let us know.
I think he was joking.
You'd be surprised what he come up with. That might not be a joke. We had would you put it past? Hey, more distracted. Would you put it past Vince McMahon to try to bring OJ Simpson in at that point?
No, I don't put anything past Vince McMahon. No.
So that could have been what was on the drawing table, and of course they just sort of went with what they went with. But don't think for a second that if he couldn't have got OJ Simpson there, he wouldn't have. I mean, in my mind. So I don't consider that far-fetched, to say the truth.
What would that have been, like 2 years after the big Bronco chase?
This is March 96. When was that, 93 or 94? Can you imagine?
I mean, plus with the trial, I mean, that couldn't have been over very much by 96.
I don't know. Then we got our Savio Vega as well. You remember Savio Vega, Jeff, is the one that warned Tony Atlas not to go back to his hotel room in Puerto Rico.
Oh, yeah. With Brody.
In the Dark Side of the Ring episode, just so you know, Savio Vega is not interviewed. But remember I told you about the extra footage, the Dark Side of the Ring Confidential or something like that? It's an extra show that has interviews in between with Jason Eisner and the other co-creator of the series and a host. And they do interview Savio Vega a little bit in that show. Specifically saying we couldn't get him at the time, but he has a little bit to say. He didn't say anything too extraordinary, but it was just sort of neat to see him on there because I like Savio Vega all right back in the 90s as a wrestler. He was a fairly small guy, but he was charismatic and he put on a good show. And I was surprised when I saw that because I did the original time I saw Dark Side of the Ring on Bruiser Brody because I'd heard that it had happened, but I knew nothing about the backstory. I didn't realize that I knew about or had heard of a lot of the guys who were there at the time, right? So anyway, that's kind of neat. Just my opinion. Then you got your squash match where Hunter Hearst Helmsley was squashed by the Ultimate Warrior. Do you suppose that was a personal favor to Vince to suck up because he was going to start going out and marry his daughter?
That's funny. Hey, Lance said it was true about the O.J. Simpson match.
Yeah, I totally did not know that. That's crazy. Yeah, I guess that would be too far. That makes sense. I mean, that makes total sense.
Oh, yeah, really. Well, thanks. Lance always has the info, man. He's the inside guy.
What would OJ's finishing move be?
It would have to involve a glove, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
like a Samoan spike slashing motion type move where
you can see that whole thing with such bad taste.
You're like Ric Flair chops and JR's back there going, "My God, he's going to take his head off." You know what I mean?
Oh, jeez.
But yeah, I remember buying that pay-per-view and oh man. Didn't disappoint. It was a good card. It was a good pay-per-view.
Undertaker versus Diesel, Pin Diesel, 16 minutes.
Yeah.
I suppose everything else was short, so they had to do something.
Not a lot of wrist locks in the Undertaker Diesel match.
No.
Not a lot of drop toe holds.
No.
A lot of punches and elbows.
Yeah.
And then a tombstone.
What's the one they call when he walks a tightrope?
Old school.
Old school. That's it. Yep. Old school. And then Shawn Michaels pinned Bret Hart in an Iron Man match. Anyway. Let's see. What do I want to do here? In overtime. A minute into overtime. Wow. So, do you remember this? I wanted to talk about this real briefly. I was mentioning to Jeff earlier, but I don't know if I could. Probably can't bring that up right now either. But did you see the recent video that Paul Orndorff's son put out of? I didn't even realize he was in that bad a shape right now.
Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah.
You've seen it?
I didn't see it, but I guess the thing is that Paul Orndorff was asked to work with Hogan, and he wasn't in the best of health or something, and he hurt himself, and he kind of had atrophy in like his right arm, which is why when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, he had his robe on, so you couldn't tell the atrophy in his arm, and he can't raise it, so that's why he was waving with his left head. A magnificent mustache, by the way. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if he's just worse than he was back then. I mean, it just makes sense, right, as you get older. But
yeah, he was in very, very bad shape.
Yeah, I saw an interview with him a few months ago. I don't know how old it was, but I mean, couldn't have been that old because Orndorff looked really old at the time. Not as as gaunt as he was in this last video, but his stories were pretty interesting about how he came up wrestling in his life. He was kind of a badass in the day.
Man, Orndorff was. There's interesting stuff right here.
In 95, I had jury duty, and one of the panels I was sent to was next to OJ's murder trial at the LA Criminal Courts building.
Wow. You were right there. We just watched it on TV.
But Paul Orndorff, it's some kind of nerve thing, right? Like he had some kind of nerve damage and it just deteriorated. Is that kind of what happened?
Yeah, I don't know. But it was just so sad to see because we talked about it quite a bit over the last little while. And, got a stroke, yeah. And it's just, it surprised me that we just sort of happened to see that video. I don't know if I could even find it.
Did Orndorff work very long? Like, was he very old when he retired? I don't remember seeing him wrestling when he was old. Like Ric Flair.
He went to WCW.
It said debuted in 76, retired 2000.
Ooh.
So,
yeah, he had to be pretty old then for a wrestler.
But he worked though for the, what did they call the place WCW had? If I heard the name of it, the something center.
Was it the power plant?
Power plant, maybe. He was a trainer there for years. Mm-hmm. After he sort of was done actively in the ring. And I think that would be in the 2000s.
Says arm atrophy from his nagging injury led him to retire in 2000. He was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2005 and the National Wrestling Alliance Hall of Fame in 2009. After retiring from wrestling, he trained others and survived cancer in 2011.
Jeez.
And it looks like he also had a football career. University of Tampa.
He's a big football player.
1973, drafted by the New Orleans Saints. And then he played with the Kansas City Chiefs. So there you go.
Wow. I have found that video, so I am going to play it just because it's something you want out there just to sort of see what these guys have done. It's probably going to take me a minute to bring it up, but I'll play it if I can get it to open. I think I have a lot of internet going on in my house at the moment.
It's so odd to see somebody like, somebody you've seen on TV for years and years, and then you haven't seen them for like 20, 30 years, and then you see them again. Like, it's like a time travel thing. It's so odd to see.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so.
Oh, wow.
It will play here in a moment.
How you been, Dan?
I'm going to turn out the sound just so we'll probably, if we don't talk, it'll be okay.
Do you remember me? Yeah. Thank you. What is this? Is that salt? Yeah, thank you. Salt and pepper. I love you, Daddy.
Yeah, I know.
You know? Do you remember wrestling? Daddy, you're just eating the pepper.
And that's it. So yeah, I don't know. What do you say? It's like you look at. I don't know. Bring up some photos of it.
It's definitely sad to see somebody like that, especially. I was kind of after the Paul Orndorff thing, because like he did a lot of work with Hogan, and he was kind of big in the early mid '80s. That's kind of his kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't really remember him in the late '80s and '90s, but yeah, I mean, it's tough, People look up.
After WrestleMania 1. Yeah, after WrestleMania 1, what should I have done here? He went. He sort of that. Did you remember at the end they left him in the ring or something like that, and they kind of turned on him like Piper and Orton turned on Orndorff, and Orndorff became a good guy and teamed up with Hogan, and then Orndorff ended up turning on Hogan, and they had a pretty good match on Saturday night's main event in like 87, 88, something like that. It was a pretty big deal actually. The picture's tiny.
And didn't he have like some type of weird losing streak or something where he'd lose like every week, and then he was like, maybe I'm not so wonderful. You know what I mean? But hey, in the wrestling business,
I think you're absolutely right. I forgot about
and
that.
You can go on a 3-year losing streak and just job out to everybody and collect a paycheck. It elongates your career by 3 years. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, well, that's true. Just extends it, and I'm just having a hard time getting the pictures to open here.
Yeah, I remember Orndorff mainly from NWA days back in the late 70s, early 80s. He was here in St. Louis a lot, wrestling.
Kai.
He's one of those guys that I watched so much in the NWA that I saw him go to WWF. It's always kind of a weird thing back then to see these guys, but I mean they all had to move on at that point.
Well, it's just the landscape of wrestling in the world is different. Back then it was like when these guys retire, what are they going to do? Nothing, because they didn't save any of their money. They really didn't have any other type of skills. Nowadays, these wrestlers, they're better with the money. I heard they'd rather play video games and go out and drink beers. They have all these endorsement opportunities, these social media opportunities, things like WWE Network and reality TV shows have given them other opportunities. So, I think The Rock had a great run. It was like 3-4 years. He did what he needed to do, established himself, got out. That's perfect.
That's
not everybody's
right.
in that situation, but those old 80s wrestlers, the lifestyle just chewed them up and spit them out,
Yeah.
Yeah, The Rock really did that right.
There's some that you still see that look pretty good.
What's that?
I just said you still see some that look pretty good, but the majority they don't tend to, right?
Oh yeah.
Still trying to get that thing to open, but I guess I'm not going to.
I just saw an interview with Greg Valentine. He was talking about how I guess it was in the 80s when they did the little figures of the wrestlers.
There we go.
He said he made like $120,000 off of that in royalties.
You made 120 grand off a little Hammer action figures.
Yep, he was all excited about it because he said he went to complain to McMahon about something, and McMahon he goes, "Hey, look at this," and he handed him a check for like $125,000. He goes, "This is from your action figure." Valentine said, "I completely forgot what I went in there complaining about after that."
And I'm sure he drank it all or ran it up his nose or bought some women for the night. You know what I mean? Like,
apparently there's another one out. I don't know if it's now
Yeah.
or it was a few years ago. I guess they're putting some of the old wrestlers out again. Like, good for them. Make some more money. Whew.
Yeah. There are some great videos on there of on YouTube of the Hammer's the one I've been seeing the most, actually. Some of him alone and some with Brutus Beefcake that have been actually really entertaining.
yeah, they're rough.
Yeah. Anyway. So what about the second? I'll be quite honest, Jeff. The second Hell in a Cell match the other night, Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley. I had a hard time staying awake for it.
I don't
How
like
did you find it?
Bobby Lashley. I just don't find him interesting. I don't know.
He has zero charisma.
And
He's a little bit better now that he's around MVP because he's got that $1 million look, you know, and he can move a little bit. But man, when it comes to like emoting or character, like just nothing.
Yeah.
And he's always been like that.
Yeah, no, you're right. He's been around a long time, actually.
Yeah, he's been around for a while.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping McIntyre would win just because I really can't take Lashley when he talks. I don't know. He's just really boring.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a big dude, but man. What wasn't that? Was that the finale, Pete?
That was the finale.
Yeah.
Missed about. I was trying to get that up there. I missed a lot of the comments there. John Matuzak. There's another sad story, right? Sloth. Was it Sloth? That's what it's called in Goonies, right?
Yeah. So this Hell in the Cell pay-per-view, was it entirely matches that were all just Hell in the Cell?
Well,
No.
this is the thing.
They
It was
lifted
always
the Cell
a
out.
challenge.
I don't like that that's too much Hell in the Cell. You know what I mean? Like
How many were in a cell?
First
Was it
women's
2 or 3?
match, just two. Plus, they took one of the cell matches out with Rey Mysterio and Roman Reigns was done Friday night. That was in a cell. Then Bayley and Bianca Belair was in a cell, and they didn't even use the cell. And then Lashley and Drew McIntyre were in the cell, and they didn't even really use it. Nothing else in the cell. Like the cell meant nothing to that pay-per-view.
yeah, that's crazy because you know I don't know. For me, Hell in the Cell is like this is a blood feud. We are going to finish this here and now.
Yes.
There's nowhere to run. This is the end of the storyline. I'm going to beat you. You know, I'm going to bloody you, batter. I'm going to beat you like a government mule. Or, you know what I mean?
Right.
And if you're just putting people in there to do wrestling moves and maybe bang on a cage every now and then there's really no point to having the Hell in the Cell. You know. I mean, what if we had a pay-per-view that was like every match is a buried alive match? Doesn't it take away from that one match that really deserves that type of stipulation? You know, it's just bizarre.
And that's another reason, if you're going to say about it, like the King of the Ring versus the Hell in the Cell, which do I like better? Well, the Hell in the Cell, that cell is a great thing to bring out now and again, just under the stipulations you're talking about. When you have to finish a story between two people who've been like Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, finish it in a friggin' cell, and those buggers will go off the top of it, right? Because they're actually great. That was one of the matches they had the other night that wasn't in the friggin' cell. Didn't make any sense whatsoever. But if you're just going to throw pay-per-view every June of every year and we're going to have two of the matches in a cell, it doesn't mean anything anymore. So they've totally ruined the Hell in the Cell.
Yeah,
It's Perry.
that's craziness. It's crazy, man. It's craziness.
Yeah,
So-
this is true.
So, Mama C.
They did make good use of the chairs and tables and kendo sticks, though.
Yeah.
I always like there's always kendo sticks, even in just regular matches. They're always under there for some reason.
Yeah. Well, let's find a question. I got some of the. Let's talk about this one just a little bit, though. We already have a little bit. But that to me right there is one of the absolute best King of the Rings there was.
What year is that?
Not but that's 98. And that is the second match with the Hell in the Cell, right? This is the Foley Undertaker match.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And when he came off that, like the two different bumps that he took that Mick Foley took during that match, I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. And I don't think anybody ever done anything like it at the time.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, think about it when Undertaker did a choke slam and slammed him on the thumbtacks. That was the least amount of damage that he went through that night.
Yeah,
that was like the third weird thing that happened to Foley, and like, man, I think he became a legend that night. That was crazy.
Yeah.
Well, that's what he said on Stone Cold's podcast. Is that moment will outlive both he and the Undertaker and that paper.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because they ran it like they ran that spot as part of the intro for the TV show.
Yeah.
Right, of him falling off the thing and crashing through the table.
Right,
I mean,
that's the fall off the cage, like being thrown off the cage. I think then that second one, and I've watched a few of his shows where he talks about it. That one didn't hurt him as much as when he chokeslammed him up above and he went through the cage, down into the ring,
crashed through the mat. Oh God!
Oh, but how many times have you seen the clip where they go to a close up of him and his tooth is wedged up through his lip?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's coming out of his nose.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh.
It's like, oh my God, the pain. And then, like I said, then finishing up with the thumbtacks, because that's nothing after what he's already been through.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember anything about the rest of the friggin' pay-per-view, to tell you the truth.
Undertaker said that it took a while for Mick Foley to convince him to do that move to throw him off the top, because Undertaker didn't want any part of it originally, but he finally decided to do it. And Undertaker also said when he did the choke slam on top and they went through, he says they were walking up there, they could hear the little ties, the metal ties, just springing off, like going boing off in the air. And if you really want to see a good copy of it, you can actually see those things popping as they're walking around. But he said he stood on one like square, like towards one of the crossbars, and he chokeslammed him into the square in front of him. And he was just thinking, he goes, if I would have done that in the same square, we both would have gone flying through. And golly knows what happened then.
You just don't know. You land, blow out your knee, or fall and break your hip or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's just craziness.
It's just nuts, because he said the whole time he was standing there looking down, he's like, come on, Mick, just move. Do something so I can tell you're still around.
Now, I haven't watched that. I'm going to ask you again, Jeff. You tell me every time. What's the name of the show? It's a Sunday night. Mick Foley and Steve Austin was on it.
Broken Skull Sessions.
Broken Skull Sessions. Yeah, Broken Skull Sessions. I am a fan of that show. Why I can't remember the name of it. I always want to say Stone Cold Podcast. So it was Broken Skull Sessions.
So he had behind the scenes stuff, what they were thinking, and that's the best part.
Yes, I so enjoyed the one with Chris Jericho on there. Well, you say, was it Utah? Do you watch A&E, Chris?
I haven't caught a lot of it.
Yeah,
but
I'm a big Chris Jericho.
I'm a huge Chris Jericho fan. Love Jericho.
Yeah. He could carry that. He gave that entire organization enough legitimacy to really give it the chance to get up off the ground. So we'll see how it goes. I don't know. He's freaking good. But for him to be on that, them talk about how Vince McMahon gave the approval for Jericho to come over and be on the WWE network and basically promote AEW, which not really what he was trying to do. They were talking about old WWE and their history in that. And they did legitimately. That's what they talked about. But they didn't shade away from AEW. They just, matter of fact, that's where I am now. And we wrestle on Wednesday nights. And I remember reading articles afterwards that it was kind of a backfire for WWE, because AEW had the highest ratings they'd ever had the week after, right? everybody got interested in it.
Yeah.
Well, what else is going to happen, right? Of course it's going to happen. Hey, Salvador, there he is, man. Good to see you. Good to see you. But if you could go back, here's a weird question for both of you then. And you could attend any one pay-per-view from the past and be right there. Which one would you pick to go see? Chris?
5.
WrestleMania 5?
The Mega Powers explode, man. Macho Man.
Right on.
And Hulk Hogan, the greatest storyline of all time. You know?
I
You
agree.
said you loved Elizabeth. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Macho, because that's one of the greatest Macho Man promos of all time, right? Like, he's like, "You lied, didn't you, Hulk Hogan?" You know what I mean? You made a promise to me, promises that you didn't keep. Yeah. You promised me that Elizabeth would never be in harm's way. You broke that promise, Hulk Hogan. You know, it's just magic. It's Macho Man magic.
That's beautiful. Now, Hulkster's behind you, overlooking. Who's your favorite? Is it the Hulkster or is it Macho Man? Because you do an amazing Macho Man impression.
I mean, Hulk Hogan is the reason why we have, you know, that 80s and 90s and what we have now. If it wasn't for Hulk Hogan, I mean, for God's sakes, Bob Backlund might still be champion. I mean, who knows, right? We wouldn't have Hulkamania. We wouldn't have the commercialization of wrestling, and it wouldn't have maybe not have come out of, you know, the small arenas and made it to, you know, national TV. But when we talk about my favorite wrestlers of all time, I mean, Hogan's Hogan, right? But
yeah.
I'm Flair, Macho, Jericho, you know, those types of guys. They were just great.
I watched the first 20 minutes of 5 the other day because I couldn't find, for a while, whatever reason, I couldn't find it on my tele. I have it weird up here because I subscribe to the network through my cable provider, and I can log on to my computer, to the WWE network on my computer, and I can get access to everything on my computer, but not always through my television. So I couldn't get 5. I'd watched a few, and I just started watching the first half of 5 the other day. There's still some pretty cheesy matches in 5, but I agree with you 100%. I'm sorry. Right from the friggin' first, right from WrestleMania 3 up through the end of WrestleMania 5, in my mind, that was one of the absolute best storylines going, from Andre versus Hogan, bleeding right into Andre, the final event, right? Or the main event on Friday night, the very first Friday night main event with the twin referees, Richie and Earl Hebner. And then it also led into WrestleMania 4 and Macho Man right up through the Mega Powers exploding. To me, shy of NWO, I don't think there's a better 2-year period of wrestling with storylines that encapsulated and grew wrestling any more than that right there.
And those crowds were rabid, and it's because of, you know, Hogan and their ability, you know, the Giant and Hogan, the Mega Powers explode in Hogan, Ultimate Warrior and Hogan. You know what I mean? So we got sort of this every 2 years. Hogan's in the main event, and these houses are exploding when these matches come up, because they know it's about, you know, knowing now it's like Hogan's backstage politics. Okay, here we go. You know, straight punch, leg drop, you know, pin. You know what I mean? Big boot. You know, you see, but at the time the fans were just so rabid, and Hogan was larger than life, and it was really like superheroes, you know, fighting, and you're playing with your action figures or something. Like I said earlier, it was just, the magic was there, and it was because of the great
morning cartoons and say your prayers, eat your vitamins, and it just hit all the right chords, didn't it?
And it was good writing. It was smart writing back at the time. You know, like, you know, Andre the Giant's never been champion because he's never asked for a championship match. He's undefeated.
That's right.
You know, it's, you know, and then you're like, well, is that true? If it is, then yeah, he deserves a title shot. and I think Andre can beat him. You know what I mean? Like
You got a request. You see that?
Need a little excitement? Snap into a Slim Jim. Yeah. The honky tonk man said, I can't sing and I can't dance, but I can make romance. Yeah, ask Elizabeth.
Oh, beautiful. MVL says ECW One Night Stand. That was a different pay-per-view. Do you remember watching? Did you watch that one back in the day when it was on?
I didn't watch it when it was on. I've watched it since.
Have you? Yeah.
Was that the one with the Terry Funk triple match at the end? Was that one? Or am I thinking of a different one?
Well, the one I'm thinking of is the one where John Cena fought. Was it RVD at the end?
Okay, yeah, I know the match.
ECW
where Cena threw his shirt and the ECW fans threw it back. And
yeah.
then he threw it again and they threw it back.
That was
and then,
the original.
Yeah, JBL and who else was up there? JBL and like all the WWE boys were up in the balcony and they were all just drinking beer and
that was the original sign. The first time I'd ever seen. If Cena wins, we riot.
yeah, for sure.
In the original Philadelphia, what the hell was that place called in Philadelphia? That's where they went, and they did it. It was friggin' passionate. And Sammy and Sabu, Rob Van Dam, all those great guys. I remember watching those actual ECW pay-per-views for about 2 years before they folded. And they folded what, 99 maybe? 98? And man, there's never been anything like it since. Just so different.
Did Vince buy it? Was it 2000 or 2001 when he bought them?
Well, 2001 he bought WCW, and it was before that by a year or two that he basically.
In my head, I have it sort of about the same time frame. I didn't realize there was that gap of time.
Yeah, but it wasn't for I was in the pay-per-views because every night of the friggin' 3 Sundays a month there was a pay-per-view on. It was ECW, then it was WCW, then it was WWF every month. That was a lot of wrestling, and it was all different and all good.
All right. If you get, I'm gonna mute and stop my cam. I gotta go do something real quick.
Yeah.
My son's girlfriend's here, so she's gonna give me a haircut. So when I come back, I'm going to be able to style and profile. Yeah.
Style it and profile it.
I'll be right back.
Right on. So, Jeff, let's go to you. What if you could go, if we heard from, who was it said ECW? The One Night Stand. I can't remember who said it. MVL? I'm going to look at. MVL Gaming said ECW. Lance said WrestleMania 3. Chris wants WrestleMania 5. What about you? If you could go to any pay-per-view that you can remember, which one would you want to go to?
I didn't watch many of the WrestleManias, just the early ones.
Yeah.
3 was great, but just for the sheer spectacle, I'd want to see the first WrestleMania in person.
Yeah.
Leading up to it, I mean, I was in, what was I? Senior? I can't remember when it was, but in high school, and it was such a big deal.
85, yeah.
85, I would have been. No, I'd have been a junior. It was such a big deal. And, because we'd never seen anything like that before. It'd just be cool now to say, hey, that was the first WrestleMania. Or
this is so true.
Second choice, and strictly for the one match, would be King of the Ring 98. Because to see that one match in person, that had to be crazy. I'm sure everyone watching was like, my God, is he dead? And if I said that twice.
There just aren't many pay-per-views that have such an iconic match that overwhelms everything. Like when you think about King of the Ring 98, that's all you think about is that Hell in the Cell match.
And right? I know
you look real close up in there. I don't know if that will focus on or not, but
I know Stone Cold. Was it Stone Cold and Kane afterwards?
Stone Cold and Kane. How do you follow up that?
He said that in a couple of his podcasts. He's like, we had to follow that. He goes, what do you do? We can't top that. Chris should have done his haircut live on the show. That would have been
would have been even better, yeah. Yeah, I think that should have. Too bad we couldn't get hold of him. Oh, Blue Meanie's face. Yeah, MVL. That was at that match, wasn't it? Or at that pay-per-view. That would have been interesting to be at. That is for sure. Right on. And anybody else in the chat, if you could think of one. I haven't given you mine yet, but you know what? I don't know that I've come up with one in my own mind yet. But I will say I love the Royal Rumble. I love surprises coming out in the Royal Rumble. And I just love the whole era. I'm going to go Royal Rumble 2001. And I'm even going to have to sort of look to see who was in it. Do
you remember who won that one?
I don't. But I just remember the year.
Which one did Ric Flair win? Because he won one where he was the third guy in. What's that?
92.
92?
That would be a pretty impressive one. Yep. So we're going to try to find the stuff on the Royal Rumble here. Oh, what's that? All right. So, okay, I got her up here now. Back to 88, 89. Let's go to 92 first. Ric Flair won the world title by winning the Royal Rumble at 62:02. Okay, it doesn't say the actual order here. I can get that. This is
he was third.
92 Royal Rumble. 88, 90, 91, and 92. It was the British Bulldog, Ted DiBiase, Ric Flair was the winner, lasted 59 minutes and 26 seconds. Then Jerry Sags, Haku, Shawn Michaels, who actually didn't last all that long, Tito Santana, the Barbarian, Kerry Von Erich, Repo Man, Greg Valentine, Nikolai Volkov, Big Boss Man, Hercules. I love all these guys. Like, all of them are freaking fantastic names. Rowdy Roddy Piper, Jake Roberts, Jim Duggan, Erwin R. Shyster, father of The Fiend, Jimmy Snuka, The Undertaker, Randy Savage, The Berserker, Virgil, Colonel Mustafa, Rick Martel, Hulk Hogan, Skinner, Sergeant Slaughter, Sid Justice, and The Warlord. What an amazing friggin' group. And then for Ric Flair to come in there and do that and stay through the entire thing. Phenomenal.
You know, I was watching Hell in a Cell. I was thinking to myself, you know what I miss? I miss the cartoony characters. Whatever, have stereotypes of different people. They're just, Iron Sheik. You wouldn't do that anymore, probably. But what a memorable character. I mean,
yes,
everybody was so unique. And did you see SmackDown? I think it was SmackDown. They had some guy on. They said it was his first time in. I don't know. He was with. I can't think of his name. There's a guy.
I do remember a little bit.
There's a wrestler from Nigeria. He wears a lot of white and green.
I know exactly. Apollo Crews? No.
Yes. Yeah, I think
Yes?
that's him. Okay. Yeah. And he had a guy with him for a tag team match. He was a guy dressed up. His name was like Commander something. Started with a Z, I think. But he came in full uniform and wrestled. And I was like, I like this guy. He's in a full uniform. That's what I like to see. I like to see an actual character instead of just some guy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Gene Mean.
Yeah, Gene Mean. Russia, number one. Iran, number one. USA.
So they're gonna eat dinner first, so I get to play with my friends a little bit more.
Oh, that's good, because you realize we come to the conclusion while you were gone that the haircut should be live on the stream.
Maybe it's a live stream hair versus hair match.
Oh, only if you do it as Randy Savage, though.
Yeah, right.
So, Royal Rumble 2001. Talk about why I picked that one, and just because I remember there being such fantastic people in it. D'Lo Brown and Chaz beat Takumi Shinoku and Sho Funaki, who actually I saw the Kai and Tai, and they're pretty freaking awesome to watch, actually, the way they fly around. D'Lo Brown, yeah, exactly. Yeah. He had, who was, oh, he was wrestling, oh, shoot, Darren Drosdorf when he got injured.
Draws.
Way back when. Draws, yeah. Yeah. That's sad. That was just one of those things. It doesn't happen very often, but so Bubba Ray Dudley and Devon, both those beat Edge and Christian to win the WWF tag title, and Bubba pinned Edge. That would be sad because I love Edge and Christian. Chris Jericho beat Chris Benoit in a ladder match to win the IC title. That was an 18-minute and 44-second match. You know that was an awesome match, right?
Oh. Benoit and Jericho.
China.
Yeah.
What's that?
Benoit and Jericho. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's going to – you throw those in the ring, it was amazing. Then you had Ivory pin China, which that was a 3-minute match. I don't remember that, but and then
was that the one where China tried to do like the flippy back spring thing and fly into the corner with the elbow, and she like kayfabe hurt her neck and kind of fell over, and then Ivory pinned her.
Would this possibly when Ivory was doing the right to censor gimmick?
Yeah.
Which was annoying as hell, right?
Yeah, right.
Remember, that's what they said. I never saw that live, but I heard different people say over the years that of all the things that come up on that screen and start blaring, that right to censor gimmick was the absolute worst, most annoying thing you'd ever heard.
Yeah.
No.
Which WrestleMania was that, Pete?
No, we're talking Royal Rumble 2001.
Oh, Royal Rumble 01. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I picked because it is, though I remember that event vaguely, but the people that are in it. And then it's the championship match was Kurt Angle pinning Triple H, which I would love to see. And now, as for the actual Royal Rumble, I had to go to a different screen.
Yeah, WrestleMania 17 was pretty good too. That was a stacked card.
Oh my God! Actually, you're right. It was. I remember watching that one. That was one we bought the pay-per-view.
Yeah, Right to Censor was annoying. Stevie Richards and crew. Yeah, Lance Jennings. That was a Bull Buchanan, The Good Father, Val Venus, and Ivory.
Yeah.
Bull Buchanan.
Oh.
Get out of here.
Is that the one where she popped her boob implant? There was one where China did. I think that was a little later on. I'm not sure when it was, but I do remember it happening.
That's nuts, man. That's crazy. That's craziness, man.
I'm talking. Gotta get the video games in for a second. Did you watch the new trailer today, Jeff?
Yes.
The Nico trailer? Yeah.
It was pretty much just like a remake, wasn't it, of an earlier one?
It was very much so. Yeah. One of the earlier was a little bit more added into it.
I think Tommy Talking was exact video because he had that kind of odd blue shirt.
I thought
he pulled that one out again for the video.
Again, to critique just a couple of things, minor things, I thought for a family-friendly console kind of reveal and video, the music was like really intense. And then the other thing, and this is starting to make me nervous, because at E3 and in this new Amico trailer, they've never tied a launch date to those videos. They've never had the coming October 10th, 2021. Like here we are. Right. Here we are 5 months away. I mean, are we coming out? Or are we not coming out? What are we doing here? You know what I mean? It's starting to make me a little nervous, actually.
It's got me nervous too, Chris, because that was the first thing I noticed on E3. I was like they didn't give a date.
But they showed the price for physical and digital media. Like they showed, but you're not showing the price of the console or release dates. It's
but they're doing other stuff that makes you think it is coming out. Like they have physical media on Amazon Germany. They've got Amazon Canada where they're selling extra controllers. It's like, why would you have that on there?
Is that like pre-order type stuff, or could I buy it now and have?
No, it's pre-order stuff.
Yeah, see, that's still kind of because if they move release
just appeared on EB Games here in Canada. Like there was no way to pre-order it in Canada except for through television until yesterday, and now you can do it through EB Games, which is GameStop. It's the same company, basically.
I checked GameStop's website today, and you can only order the 3 consoles that they have: the white, the black, and the Galaxy Purple. You know, they don't have physical. They don't have the physical media up there yet, even for pre-order or you know, anything like that. And it's just kind of
strange. Amazon Germany has it all.
Yeah, and then Canada has controllers, but we don't even have controllers. It's like
I'm kind of on the fence about it, because it's like if it's a parts thing or a shipping thing. I mean, I think people understand that, and to be honest, I would rather the Amico team take their time and get it right and put out a console that's ready to be put out. If they need another 4 or 5 months, that's fine with me. But you know the backlash that's coming if he releases, you know, a delay of some kind. Agreed.
And that's been that's really kind of what we've been thinking. Is I think there's going to be I really think there's going to be some sort of release. I believe that they will make the investment to pay the extra to get the head of the line for a certain number of consoles to be produced on that date and released for that date. It's just there's so many challenges to come up, and so many you can't outbid Ford, Sony, and friggin' GM and Microsoft for these parts that they need, but they're going to try to at least get some.
You know, they had some of the staff on Retro Bros live stream, and they asked about the Groovy. How many emails did you get, right? And they were like, oh, maybe 3,000, 4,000. Well, the guy that's in charge of that popped in a Retro Bros stream and said we had 5,000 emails.
Okay.
So let's assume that all of those people are going to buy an Amico. Let's just pretend.
Yeah.
Well, at $250, 5,000 is $1.25 million.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know what. Again, those are speculative numbers.
That's
right. If you're looking at $1.25 million in hardware sales on day one, that's not bad. Because I'm going to go out and buy I'm going to buy probably every game I can physical. That the first time I'm able to go get it, you know, day one or whatever that weekend is.
I agree. I just hoping I can get it somewhere where I live, right? Or I'll be ordering or trying to get some somehow. But it'll be around. We'll figure it out. I really think there's going to be something out in October.
Do you have an EB Games anywhere near you, Pete?
The nearest ones are in St. John and Fredericton, New Brunswick, which are both about an hour to an hour and a half away from where I live. So, but I doubt very much they'll even have it right off the get-go, because we are in this part of the country sort of far-reaching from the centralized region. You know what I'm saying? We're at the extremities of the country. So,
you know, what'll be interesting too is they have 4 different models of Amico right now that you can buy. So, if it was just one, it would be a lot simpler. But now they've spread themselves thin with 4.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting. You know, if there's an initial batch, who's going to get those? Because there could be a level of bias if I ordered the wood grain and Tommy sends one to me because he knows I'm going to stream it and talk about it in a positive light, as opposed to Joe Smith living out in the middle of Kansas somewhere that just, you know what I mean? Like, even though he may have ordered his first. I mean, there's no way. I mean, there's no way to have full accountability, because, you know, the people that are pro Amico and that are always, you know, always having Tommy on, and all the developers, you know, they're obviously going to get theirs first.
Yeah. Well, there's 2,600 founders. Those will be the absolute first, in my mind, which are wood grain. Then you have your VIPs, which were ordered for a period for 3 or 4 or 5 months afterwards. And there's been like 5,000 of those pre-ordered. So I think you're going to go with that first. Then you'll start looking at your GameStops and your other pre-orders, and hopefully they can handle all the pre-orders and at least put a few in retail. That's what we're hoping. But at the end of the day, I think it's founders who'll be first, and VIPs. Those are premium paid devices, you know, all wood grain.
Yeah, I bought that one.
Yeah, and I just think those will be the first ones made and the first ones put out. And I do think those will come out October 10th, even if they have to scale back the production of any others in any significant fashion. Hopefully they don't. But if they're paying like 10 times the amount for certain parts just in order to have them before that date, because that's what it's taking, they're going to have to limit the number of consoles they do that for. Now, if the entire console, like we know for a fact that like Microsoft and Sony produce consoles at a loss because they're making their money off software. A smaller company like Intellivision are not producing consoles at a loss. So we know that certain numbers of the parts, I don't know how significant the parts are that they need, like what percentage of the cost, but if they have to pay double or triple whatever to get themselves up the line, they still should be able to do so for at least a smaller number of consoles. So anyway, that's what I'm hoping, sort of the way it's panning out. And if things sort of get better in the next, they're getting better all the time. Are they not getting better around where you live? Right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's a process though. It's a slow and kind of steady process. It's still kind of bumpy a little bit, but
no, I hear you. And it is here too. We have bumps, and we had bumps today in our process around here. But I think it'll be okay. I think it'll be all right. They'll get some out, and they'll start ramping up. I would hope by Christmas they'll have the stores filled by November, which isn't much time, but weeks can mean a lot of time, really, in that aspect, right?
And I think they got to kind of be cautious too, because when you look at number of actual pre-orders, that kind of gives you an idea of how many people want it. Once those pre-order orders are satisfied, it's hard to gauge after that how many people are going to want these. So, I wouldn't want them to produce another 50,000 consoles if they're only going to sell like 25. You know what I mean? Because it's just And I know Tommy's against like the online thing, as far as like multiplayer online. But like you're saying, Xbox and Sony and Nintendo, they're able to sell consoles at a loss because they know people are going to sign up for their e-shops and their e-services and that kind of stuff. It's Amico will probably need to get on that the first chance that they're able to, and offer like free demos and free games every month, things like that.
I've had conversations with him about some of the things that I like, because like I am not it's a lot of the games are going to be a lot of fun couch co-op. I will play a lot of the games couch co-op, but I myself want to be able to say, Chris, let's have a game of Slapshot Super Pro Hockey. And then we could turn the friggin' thing on and we could do it peer-to-peer, even if not through big servers where you're meeting random people, but just with very specific links. And that's not ruled out. It's not day one, but it's not ruled out. And when I say not ruled out, it's actually, I think, kind of expected in the first year that Jeff and I'll be able to have a game of baseball.
Another thing that I was kind of thinking of is what's to stop me from downloading a bunch of games and then that's on my controller, right?
Yep.
And then I mail that to you, and now you've got basically my library of games. And you send me, like, I buy half the games, you buy half the games, get them on your controller, and then we ship them to each other.
Straight controllers.
Now we're just trading controllers.
I don't know.
But I don't think you get all the games. I think you'd get Pete's games and he'd get your games.
Right. Yeah.
Mean like for a limited time where you trade back and forth?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, that would work. But I assume they're just keys on the controller, and then you have to wait for it to download once you put it in the new system, I would think.
Yeah.
Because I don't think those controllers have much memory at all.
Yeah, it's just kind of interesting. There's going to be a lot of people out there that are a lot smarter and a lot more tech savvy than me. They're going to be able to, kind of break this thing open and look at the text and specs, the teraflops and the gigawatts, and be able to do other things with it.
Yeah, I tend to think that we're supposed to get Founders Day early. I do think someone just said that in the chat. Oh, Savitor. I think Founders will come on 10/10, and then that'll be their kind of early period when everyone else is gonna have to wait.
I think so too. Yeah. Well, anyway, I've been looking forward to it since day one, since before a lot of people who are proponents or opponents of it had ever heard of it. Because like I've said 1,000 times, and probably people are sick of hearing it. I love the Intellivision. I grew up with the Intellivision. It's my favorite system. And I was following it when from before this whole process started and sort of saw it happening. So at the end of the day, are there bumps? Sure. Well, we were dealing with some of the biggest bumps our generation has ever seen, frankly, next to 9/11, right? Probably I dare say in ways, although maybe not as a one initial impact, probably more effect on the entire world than 9/11 at this point. And yet this small company has worked its way through, and they've continued to develop through all these hurdles. And they're not down and out yet. They're having a hard time meeting deadlines. Well, yeah, but so is everybody else in the world. But they're still kicking, and they're improving, and they're putting stuff out there, and they're letting us see their office. They're letting us see that, okay, people are now here. Here's 50 people in our office. They're talking about all the different things they do for the company. You see the passion that he has for the company, the proponents that they have. And, it's like this. It's like, okay, it's not, how can it not be, how can you not stay behind it? I don't know. Just everything.
I've always said this. I'm like, these channels on YouTube that are retro gaming channels, how can you not be excited for a new retro style console? You know what I mean? So it's bizarre to me. And people like Pat and Ian. Pat was given the opportunity to go and see it in person. You declined because you decided that there's more money to be made on a Miko hate than there is a Miko love, just like the Chameleon, And Ian really better be careful because he works at a video game store. And maybe, 6-7 months from now, somebody's going to bring one of these into his shop. And you better believe he's going to take the opportunity to make money off of it if, that's how he feeds his family. So he's saying all these evil, wicked things now, but Tommy will account for a portion of his paycheck moving forward. You know what I mean? So
no, absolutely. And I like what you said there with that's the point I've been making right off the get-go. Actually, I released a video before I knew any of the guys who were the big proponents, or before I knew any of these people. And when Pat first came out against it, and I thought, I saw the videos like, please come play it, and then you can say whatever you want about it. They basically, no, I don't need to see it. There's no credibility there.
Right.
You're right. Well, you just there's more money in hating it than loving it.
Yeah. Well, and they're all getting in on it. Like Ed Finley was a channel that I used to watch, and he's got like over 12,000 subscribers. And if you watch, he made a video about Fortnite, and it got like 200 views. And what's the next video? The Amico sucks, and it gets like 1,500 to 2,000 views. Where he says dumb shit like, well, I don't understand why the graphite edition is 250, but the pre-order one from GameStop is 300 just for Galaxy Purple. And I'm like, well, no, it comes with a $25 gift card, so it's really $275, which is cheaper than the $280 I paid for the wood grain. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not getting a gift card. So they just spread so much misinformation because they don't do any research. They just listen to what somebody else says. And they just sort of regurgitate it.
But if you put the right little catchphrase up, you can get all kinds of views.
Yeah, but he only made that video because Amico Heat draws views. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely right.
I mean, you have a channel of 12,000. You have a channel of 12,000 people. You make a Fortnite video. Fortnite, as far as I know, is still popular. Yeah, it gets like 200 views.
Yeah.
And you're a channel of 12,000 subscribers.
Well, even on our little channel, if we talk Amico, if it's in the title, our views go up.
Oh yeah.
Not huge like a big channel, but they definitely go up. And the thumbs down definitely come out. It's kind of funny.
Oh yeah.
And, you get dislikes before you even air, right?
What's that?
You get dislikes before you even air the show.
Oh yeah. When we had Tommy on one time, I don't know, we had like 3 or 4 dislikes before we even hit the air. I'm like, what the heck's going on? But Pat and Ian, I watched them a little bit before the Amico came out, or before they started talking about it. And the first video that I saw them do about it, there were like a number of things that just weren't true. I'm like, did you guys even look into this? Where did you get this information at? Because it wasn't from Intellivision. Because, I mean, if you remember way back when it originally was first announced, it was supposed to be, I think, 150 to 180.
Yeah.
And on that video with Pat and Ian, they said it was going to be 300. I'm like, 300? But then later they said, well, they got it right because the Founders Edition was 300. And I was like,
Okay.
You actually had it wrong when you aired it.
Yeah.
And Founders Edition, that's something special. It's not like that's going to come around again. Plus, that came with, does Founders come with $50 gift card, Pete?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Yeah. So right there.
I'm trying to think of all the things, all the different
down
parts.
to
There's
250.
little parts. Exactly.
Oh, yeah. This is interesting. Lance just mentioned Stuart on our channel interviewed Tommy Tallarico for his Hammer Away music show. No thumbs down because there was no Amico. It was just Tommy.
Yeah.
So I do remember seeing it. I just noticed that too, Lance, a few weeks ago. I was like, wasn't that interesting? No negativity when it was just Tommy by himself.
Yeah.
It may have flown.
Music, video games live. Yeah. That was a good interview too. It's good to see something different. It's probably refreshing for Tommy, I would think, to do that different video as well, really, after so much that he's done. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because he did it with Mike Mullis like 2 days later.
With the music, about music, yeah.
We both booked them for a music show without knowing the other was doing it, so it just happened the same week. It was kind of weird.
Well, guys, I think Chris, you haven't. You got to go get a haircut.
Yeah, pretty soon, right? And I
Any
gotta
more
go to bed. I
Macho
gotta
Man before we go, though.
get up and go teach
sorry.
firearm. What's that?
Yeah. Any more visits for the Macho Man before you go, though?
The Macho Man. I'm gonna look into the video scope, and I'm gonna tell the entire world that it was a great time being on the Papa Pete live stream. Yeah, dig it, Elizabeth, come say hi to Papa Pete.
All right, now I'll never get it back the way it was. I got to learn how to do this.
You know what's interesting about Elizabeth's character is she was so like calm and timid and never spoke, and it's like, she's a manager. She's expected to go in and like negotiate this guy's contract. You know what I mean? Like, there's no fucking way. You know what I mean? Kayfabe broken.
No,
That's
precisely.
when I knew wrestling was a sham. You know what I mean?
My God, though, I still love it. I'm sorry, but I loved it better back then than I do nowadays. I think all three of us are pretty much in that same boat. Like, I liked it back when it was cartoonish. I miss the cartoonish. I miss the characters.
Pete, do you see that picture I posted on there?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I did earlier. Then we got talking about the Amico, and let's put that.
I was talking about how I like the old wrestling because they had these cartoon characters that were.
Oh my God!
So this guy just wrestled for the first time on SmackDown, Commander Aziz, with Apollo Crews, and that is how he wrestled in that outfit. I thought he was going to take his jacket off, but he didn't. He wrestled in that full outfit.
That's crazy.
I was like, this looks like something right out of the '80s. This guy.
That's beautiful.
I thought that was awesome.
That reminds me of what were they called? It was Kurgan and oh shoot, I gotta find that now.
Kurgan. Yeah, Lance. The cream always rises to the top. Ricky, was that WrestleMania 3? Was that Steamboat and Macho? I think it was. And he comes out and he's like flipping the little coffee cup. He's like, Macho, what are you doing? Ricky the Dragon Steamboat has never been as close to the Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship of the world as he is right now. This is a cup of coffee in the big time. Yeah. Cream always rises to the top. And then he got stuck. And he was, because Macho Man would always do this, right? Like, he would always like, you look into the video scope and you always got jokes, Mean Gene, and da-da-da. And then he would do this move, right? And I'm going to tell the whole world right now, Hulk Hogan, you know, and then he would turn around and he'd give you the eyes, right? But he did one where he was like, he got to here and he was like, ooh, yeah, dig it, da-da-da-da-da, right? And then he forgot what he was going to say. Absolutely forgot what he was going to say and turned around and went, freak out! And just walked away. You know what I mean? Space is the place and the time is now. Yeah, dig it.
And the bugger cut his teeth right here in good old New Brunswick, Canada, in the Atlantic Grand Prix Wrestling with his brother Leapin' Lanny Poffo and Randy Macho Man Savage.
How great
They
was
got
the
there to
Gene?
start the career with Angelo Poffo, who was dressed up as a carpetbagger. Everybody would have recognized Angelo, right? So he was the carpetbagger, and he brought his two boys up here to work with Emile Dupre. They worked out one summer in '78. And it was Lanny versus Randy all summer long. They put on amazing matches, probably the best, two of the best wrestlers we ever saw in this area. And it wasn't very far from there that before all of a sudden they both were up in the WWF. And of course, Randy just had that charisma, man. He just had it.
Yeah. And he could go, he could wrestle. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh God, yes. Yeah.
Which always helps in the wrestling business if you can wrestle.
Yeah.
Which you don't see a whole lot today anymore, though. Today, it's just pretty much punches and kicks. You don't really see many holds, and when you do, it's like, whoa, where did that come from?
Yeah, yeah.
Other than like a suplex or a body slam, you know.
Yeah, it really is sort of safe PG wrestling and storytelling compared to what we had. I mean, it's incredible, and the characters can't really carry the show like they did back then. You know, like that the Attitude Era, in my opinion, was the last great era because you had Triple H and Shawn Michaels, The Rock, Stone Cold, Undertaker, Foley.
Mankind.
You got 6 main eventers right there, and they're all just doing the round and round, man, and it's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just don't have that, and all the characters now they're kind of the same, right? Like they're the black trunks tattooed anti-hero,
and they either have hair down to their shoulders or they're bald.
Yeah,
it's cookie cutter wrestling is really what it is.
You know, it's weird that they don't do their own promos anymore. But you watch old stuff like Georgia Wrestling with Gordon Soley down there.
Yeah,
and half the show would just be wrestlers talking, and you don't get that at all anymore.
No, it's all the young girls doing interviews and talking. Like I can't stand some of they sit around and talk at the desk. Like I don't know. There's just so much about it now that is just not as much fun to watch. Now Stone Cold and freaking Mick Foley. I can't wait to finally get a chance to sit down and watch the Broken Skull session with him. I got it right. But typical.
I mean, just right. Everything's just really scripted. Like, remember back in the day, they would do those sort of podium-style pre-match, post-match interviews. In the old AWA days, there was like a desk there, and Flair would come out, and within 5 minutes, he's taking off his watch and his shoes and his shirt, and he's like, woo! Yeah. None of you can be first, but a whole bunch of you can be next. Even that fat one over there. You know what I mean? Like, Flair was so awesome. But they would do the in arena podium style interviews. Me and Gene would be there, and it was crazy. It was great. It was just great. They don't do it anymore. It's terrible.
If you guys haven't seen the show, it's actually on A&E, and it's WWF Treasures, I believe it's called. And it takes one of the wrestlers takes one of the historic wrestlers. And from the WWE warehouse, another wrestler goes with them, and they go searching for a certain piece of paraphernalia that they don't know, for example, where it is. I've been watching those. There've been quite a few of them on now. I got them recorded. I've only watched the first 3. The last one I watched, for example, was Jerry the King Lawler, and what they were on a quest for was the neck brace that Andy Kaufman wore on David Letterman. Okay? And because they talked a lot about how there's no kayfabe. I mean, it's all shoot, right? And they talk about how they went around the country touring, and he always had this neck brace on, and they wanted to find this neck brace to get it into the WWF E collection because they actually supposedly are going to start a museum that people can actually go and look at these artifacts. One episode was Mick Foley looking for his Mankind jacket, one of his missing masks, and something else. So they went around the country. They got it from collectors. And then it was, second one was
Sergeant Slaughter's hat.
Yeah, there's about 6 or 8 of them out now, but very much worth watching. They do a very good job with it, with that show. So I'd recommend if anybody's into it, especially that era, that Attitude Era, watch Undertaker stuff. It was Undertaker. The black and purple robe set. They went looking for that. They were looking for something else. They found like the mask he wore. Remember, he had a brief period where he wore a mask after we talk about Mabel. Why did Mabel?
Yeah.
Mabel won
killed
King of the Ring and then was gone a year later because right after he won King of the Ring, they were trying to push him, and he friggin' broke Undertaker's orbital bone by being careless, right?
And he hurt Diesel.
He hurt Diesel too. Kevin Nash?
He did that move where like Nash was on his stomach and Mabel was straddling over top of him and drop his whole body weight down. And Nash told him not to do it, and he did it anyway. And he like hurt his hip or something.
Yeah.
And Vince is probably going back there like, Undertaker, Diesel, you are killing my cash cows. Your ass is out of here, homie.
That's
you know what I mean?
Yeah. He could have had a pretty big career if he had been smart. Like because they pushed him like they pushed these other big guys, and man, but you hurt the talent. Biggest one they pushed in the 2000s, if you remember him, Mr. Kennedy.
Kennedy.
He hurt too many people. He hurt a lot of different people.
Oh, did he?
I
didn't know that.
He hurt Randy Orton the worst. And of course, Randy Orton was sort of, he had an inside there somehow that it didn't really matter what the hell Randy Orton done. And maybe, he was sort of like a golden boy to a degree. And when Mr. Kennedy hurt Randy Orton, he was gone. That's what happened to him.
I never heard that about Mr. Kennedy. I didn't know he worked stiff.
That's what I remember watching shows where Stone Cold, after he was sort of like, this is not too long after Stone Cold sort of done. Who do you think? Well, I'm watching this guy. The best one I see coming up who can really talk and do this and that is this Mr. Kennedy. Biggest friggin' push you could possibly get. Yeah. And he was good, like to talk. And, that was it, though. He hurt Randy Orton. He was gone.
Randy Orton has a good Broken Skull session, Pete.
But is it good? I've seen a tiny, tiny bit of it.
It was funny. He said he didn't really have any interest in wrestling until he was around 19. And he said everywhere he went, when anyone found out he was Bob Orton's son, they said, "Oh, you're Bob Orton's son? Well, come on." And they would just help him out wherever he went because of his dad. They loved his dad.
Okay, right on. That Cowboy,
so
those are St. Louis boys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Bob Orton was from Kansas City, but he moved to St. Louis. And then Randy Orton grew up in St. Louis because of that. Yeah. And I think Bob Orton's, I believe he's still alive and still here, actually.
Bob is. Bob.
Yeah.
It's not Bob Sr., is it? It's Bob Jr. And then Randy. Like, didn't Bob's father was Bob Orton Sr. Also wrestled in his Would Be Gone By Now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Wow. Well, anyway, guys, what a great night. We had to shut it down a few minutes ago, and then we get off on a tangent. Seems to me we did that the other night, and we ended up being online for 4 hours.
It is easy to do.
It is
That's
easy.
why
I love talking wrestling.
4-hour live streams on my channel because it's like
I put up the topic like I think, okay, King of the Ring and Hell in a Cell, all it really is sort of like the root system, right? You plant that seed, and then you see what grows out of it. So we talked Lamico, we talked lots of Hell in a Cell, but a lot of King of the Ring, and then just friggin' good old time friggin' wrestling.
Well,
anyway, guys.
How about we just end with this real quick? Hell in the Cell or King of the Ring? I'm King of the Ring. Papa Pete, what are you?
I am King of the Ring. Jeff?
Yeah, I'm the same.
Same?
King of the Ring. Yeah.
All right, everybody in the comments section, get your last dig in. King of the Ring or Hell in the Cell.
Caper Dave, Lance, let's see it, buddy.
Want to thank Pete for having me and Jeff for putting up with me. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, really. Thanks for coming on.
Definitely have to do this again.
Oh, yeah.
Well, there's nothing up there yet. That's all right. I think everybody liked King of the Ring because how couldn't you like King of the Ring better, right?
Unanimous. There we go.
Right on. Take care, guys. See you in a couple weeks. I'll be back with something next Tuesday night. And Jeff and I will be back in 2 weeks with the next episode of Wrestling, Video Games, and Retro Adventures. Who knows what the hell we'll talk about? We'll figure something out.
Mama C says King of the Ring.
Mama C. And Luke Boudreaux, there's Luke.
The only vote you need.
Listen, if Mama C had said Hell in the Cell, I might have had to change my vote. So Right on. Take care, guys.
See ya.